Hello and welcome to a supremely messy desk today. The reason it is messy is because I am prepping for a workshop I'm going to do on making tiny little grimoires, something like this. And basically we've got a group of our students who are going to see Harry Potter, and we're having a Harry Potter activities week. So the week just before the end of July, I will be making these with some of our students. So this is what we're going to end up with basically. So it involves a little bit of folding paper, a little bit of cutting paper, a little bit of stitching paper, and some magical embossing. Yeah, so this is what I was going to make. I thought you might be interested to see what I do. Basically, I've got absolutely everything out of my desk at the minute, so I'll try and go through it step by step so you can see what I'm up to. So first of all, you need a piece of A4 card. Now what we're going to do is we're going to fold this, but we're going to use a little tool called a bone folder, which I have in my messy desk here. And this is what they call a bone folder, and basically what it does, it gives you a really good crease. It isn't made of bone. Maybe it was back in the day, but it's a plastic one. So yeah, what we're going to do, we've got a piece of A5 card. This is A5 in a black. I kind of picked this to show up a little bit, but also because it's kind of grimoire colours, isn't it? So let's pop that over. Line up the corners. It's really important that they are lined up, and then what you have to do is to push out. So don't push inwards to the centre, because that will send off your corners. You're holding those in place, and then you're pushing out towards that edge, and then you just go down it to make a nice crease. Let me do that again. There we go. So what you've got is a really solid crease there and a perfectly folded piece of A5 card in whichever colour you like. I've gone with black today. Okay, this bit is done. Well, for now, because there are other things that we need to do with it. So I'll just pop that over there for a minute. And here I have some A5 pieces of paper. These are just print paper, but you could use any papers that you liked if you wanted to do it with some special paper or some watercolour paper or some handmade paper. You could use that either. What I have done previously is just cut down the edges on either side of this slightly, because once it's folded over it takes up some room in your booklet, so we just have to make a little bit of extra space for that. So I've got 4 of these A5 sheets, and we're going to do the same again. So lining up the corners. You don't have to push too hard with this because it is only print paper, and we're just going to fold these in half. And pushing out so that you get a nice crease. Folding it out. You can pre-crease it with your fingers if you want to, and then just go over it with the bone folder. And this is the last one. So if you're cutting this down, all you will need is 2 sheets of A4 print paper. Then in order to make our signature, because that's what they call a group of pages that are put together, and you could make this as big as you wanted to, but just bearing in mind that you don't want too many in a set, because can you see what happens on the edge there? That's something that you can change if you want to, but for the purposes of today we're just going to keep it like this. So these are all now folded. So we get our cover, pop them inside, and because I've slightly trimmed the pages down, you can see it fits in there quite nicely, and when it's closed you can barely see the edges, but that's something you can change if you want to change. If you want to trim those down at some point, you can trim those down later. So the next thing we're going to need, because we want to keep this all together in one, and because this is a smaller booklet, we don't need too many clips, so we put one on one side to hold those pages in place and one on this side to hold those pages in place. And let's just keep it safe for us while we use our tool to mark where the holes are going to go, because we're going to stitch down the middle. I had a very useful piece of foam here. There it is. It's not quite as big as the book, but it will do. So what we want to do is this is an awl, by the way. This is what they call an awl, and it's for making holes. And obviously this is what we need. So the first thing we need to do is find the centre. Now if you want to be truly precise, you could measure this and find the centre and just mark it. I am not truly precise, and we don't need to be, because it is only a little booklet. So I'm going to eyeball where I think the centre of that is, and I think it's about there. And I'm not pushing too far in, I'm just making sure it's going through all of those connectors, so the paper and the middle, it's going through the middle there. Then we want to be about 3 centimetres in, roughly, and another hole there that goes through all the pieces. Remember to put something underneath, because the awls are very sharp. You do not want them to go through your table or through your finger. So there we go. So now we've got 3 holes that go all the way through all the bits. The next thing we need is a needle with quite a big eye in it. And the reason this has got quite a big eye in it is because it needs to take some of this waxed upholstery thread. It's quite thick, and you'll probably need about, I don't know, 30 centimetres, would that be? Something like that. So I'm just going to snip off a 30 centimetre piece, and I'm going to thread my needle. Now I'm not going to make a knot in it for now, because I'll show you what we're going to do. So first of all, you need to find your centre hole. You put your needle through the hole that you previously made. It should go through really nice and easily. And what we need to do is to hold that there just for now. Then we're going to go to the top one. I'm going to pull it through quite tightly. You don't need it to be loose. But we're also then going to take it back through that centre. Quite tight, but not pulling it so tight that you're ripping the paper or the pages underneath. And then we can let go of, no, you can't let go of it. Let's try that again. So I did that on purpose so I could show you again and show you what not to do. So we need to leave a tail, so we're going to need that later. So we're going up into that side, down to the middle, back through the middle hole, down to the side, back through the middle hole again. And you can see I've got my thumb holding that down this time. Okay, so then I'm going to take my thread and just take it through there and through there. And this just kind of so we can pull it tight, and then it goes back down through that middle hole again. Comes out to the middle. Then we're going to tie a knot. So one knot there and another one. This waxed thread really holds it all in place, but if you want to be extra certain, just put an extra certain knot in it. And I'm going to trim that down. could trim it down further if you wanted to, if those are annoying for you. And there you go. You can take those clips off now. And this, you can take the outside cover if you want to and bend it back on itself, so you get nice flat pages when you open them out. But that is your simple little book. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to put some embossing on the front, and this is where the magic bit comes in. So let me clear out a little space. This is where it gets a bit messy. She said as if it wasn't messy before, but it is a little messier because we're going to use some magical powders. These are the embossing powders, and they come in lots of different colours and lots of different ways that you can use them. And for this one, I think I used a silver. But yeah, there's loads of different ways that you can use them. So this one's a cat, that was done in a copper. We've got a black spider there. Another cat, he's more glittery. Little butterfly. We've got a lizard, a sun. So we've got a few different rubber stamps that we can use, and you can use whichever ones you have. If you have different ones and you want to do this at home, you can then use whichever ones you like. For the purposes of the one I want to do today, I wanted to do a different one to the one that I did on this one, which was the spider. So I'm going to try something else. So let me have a look at the ones I've got. I quite like this one. This is a sun symbol. Now that's quite a nice one for a front of a grimoire, isn't it? So let's go with that one. Now I have got some embossing pads. This is a specific embossing pad. It's a clear one, it's transparent, so you don't actually see much of it when it goes on. But you can use any pigment inks. I've got a few different ones here. Again, these won't show up because it's black anyway. I could try it with this metallic one, but I'm afeared that it may not work as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my clear transparent embossing pad, and I'm going to ink up my stamp like this. I'm doing it quite firmly because I want it to make sure that it's got quite a bit on it. Okay, pop the lid back on. Very important that you always pop lids back on things for reasons I will explain later. Place it onto your piece of front of your book. Do not wiggle it, but what you want to do is to try and get pressure onto all the sides. If you wiggle it, you'll get a blurred print, and you don't really want that. And lift it off, and we should have something there. I don't know if you can see that, but there's something there. You'll see it in a minute, hopefully. Right, okay, so what I'm going to do is let's try let's go for enchanted gold, shall we? So I've got a piece of paper that's just folded up. The reason for that is I'll show you in a moment. This is my powder, and we want to sprinkle it really, you know, you can go as mad as you like. You don't have to sprinkle the whole pot out, obviously, but make sure that the whole of your stamped piece, you'll just be able to see it. Even if you can't see it on camera, you'll be able to see it when it's in front of you where the stamped image is. Just hold it on there for a minute. And then what we're going to do is we're going to tip it off. Now you can see the stamped image has come up really nicely, but we've also got these extra bits. So what we want to do is to try and get rid of those. I'll get my magic wand. And what I'm going to do is open it out and tap it. And this will get rid of most of the loose bits. And the little brush on the end of here. If you haven't got a little brush, you just need to find something just to get rid of any small bits. Be aware though, do not brush over this bit because that will loosen all the bits in the middle. That's sticking quite nicely at the minute and we don't want to do that, but we do want to try and get rid of all those little extra specks. It doesn't really matter if you get some of those on your book, but it's nice to try and get as precise as possible. So that looks quite nice as it is, but the magic comes in a minute. Let me get rid of this powder. The most important thing to remember is, before you start to put on a heat tool, which blows things around, to put away the powder. Because what will happen? The powder will blow around also. So let's tip that back in. That's the reason I folded my paper. I told you there was a reason. That's the reason. Again, I can tap this to make sure all the bits go down. You'll get little bits of glitter. You'll be finding glitter in your clothes for days. But what we can do is minimize it and save a lot of it, because you don't want to waste the embossing powder. It's not super expensive, but it's something that once you've got it, you don't want to waste it. I'm just wiping down my surface here so that I don't get any stray bits of glitter on my piece. Okay, so back to our grimoire. Just seeing another couple of spots I need to get rid of. I have to be really careful though not to touch the centre bit until it's embossed. So now I am grabbing my embossing tool. This is a heat tool and it's got two settings. It's got a high and a low. I'm going to go on the high one today. Or should I go on the low one? I can see another spot of speckle there. Come out. We're just going to heat it up. And at some point it will start to change colour. Keep moving it around, don't keep it in one space all the time. You can see now it's changing. Look at that. That's the magic. Hope you can hear me over the noise of the heat gun. And make sure I've got some of that as well down at the bottom there. And there we have it. We've got our embossed sun. We can just see an edge there. Oh no, that's fine. I'll just make sure that's got an extra blast. It's just, sometimes it just needs an extra blast just to turn it into melted piece it is. Now you need to let that cool down because it will be quite hot. Also, do not hold it as I did. Best to put it on a flat surface where there is heat protector underneath it. I only do this because I've done this a lot previously, but you do want to keep your hands away from that. Moving all these other bits of glitter off, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to write on this. Now this is an embossing pen, and you can draw, if you don't like the stamps you've got, you can actually draw anything that you'd like to on this, but you have to be fairly quick because obviously it dries out and you want your powder to stick to it. So it's got two ends. This one's a brush tip, this one is a finer bullet tip, and that's the one I'm going to use. Actually no, it's not, it's a calligraphy tip. It looks like it's got an edge to it. So I'm going to write grimoire on here just in case we weren't sure what it was. This is where I spell it wrong, isn't it? So we've got grim war, and I might do a little swirl underneath it as well just to be fancy. Okay, back to our folder piece of paper. I'm going to do this in a different colour just to be awkward. I'm going to tip that on there, making sure again that I've covered all of the bits where I've got writing. Tip it off and do the tappy tap. So I'm going to get my embossing pen wand. Making sure again, because sometimes your fingers leave oils on, and that's where I'll tip a bit on there. There we go. Some of the eye had moved itself, so tapping, tapping it off, making sure I've got rid of all the loosey-gooseys, which I think I have. You might not want to do 2 different colours. I'm doing this just to show the different variation. You can keep it to 1 colour, you could do 3 if you wanted to try and mix them up. That's a different story altogether. So with my folder piece of paper, tapping that back in, tapping my paper to get it all down into that crease and tipping it back in and using my brush to encourage it. Then trying to find the lost lid. There we go. Make sure that's all away before we have the heat gun on again, because again what we don't want is the powder blowing everywhere. I'll just do a quick wipe down, move my paper out of the way and being careful not to nudge the writing in the middle. I'm going to use this very loud heat gun again, so here we go. You see the change happening sometimes. Depends on the powder that you use. I can actually see that changing colour now. Remember to move it around, don't keep it in one spot, but also keep checking that you've melted everything down. And there we go. Make sure it's dried before you touch it again, because it's really hot. But you could put your name on there, you could put whatever you like on there. And if you're doing this for yourself, obviously you can decorate it however you want it to be. But that's really simple book, simple little grimoire that we've just made. There's a couple of them. Hope you've enjoyed that. Now you can go ahead and make as many of these as you like. Obviously this is a really simple one because I am going to be doing this with students, so I kept it to a very simple minimum. It's still going to get messy, believe me. I know, I've done this before. But that's it for this little show and tell. It is a supremely messy desk, so I need to go and tidy up. But I'll see you very soon. Take care. Bye.